Okay. Okay, thank you. So our next lecturer are Lora Ketch, Otto Flye, and Nancy Iverson. Lora Ketch is the director of Lakota Study Department, Oglala Lakota Country School District from Pine Ridge, South Dakota.
Excuse me, can I just interrupt? Because we have a lot we were going to present and we want to work our introduction into our presentation.
It will be, okay. It will be very short. I promised you, it will be very short.
Well, we're already, okay. Yeah, we'd really like to get started.
And, okay, and I just say that Lora Ketch and Otto Flye are from Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and Nancy Iverson she's from San Francisco, California. She is a pediatrician who works in general pediatric private care and hospice, bereavement support for youth and adults in San Francisco. Did I did it short, Nancy? It's okay. You can start. Okay.
So hi, I'm Nancy Iverson, and I'm really, really happy to be back here. I confess to binge watching Inspector Morse and Inspector Lewis over the last year just to be back at Brasenose and be in Oxford. As was said, I have worked as a pediatrician. I've worked at the Pine Ridge Reservation, and I've also started a nonprofit that works with that, and that's led me to meeting some amazing people, and I've invited two of them to be with us today. We're going to talk about language and sorry, can I keep the gallery view?
Sheena?
Sorry, yeah, we're not going to do screen sharing or anything. But we're going to talk about language and culture are inextricably mixed. And I certainly became, any doubts I had were totally eradicated by Jared Diamond's work with the book, The World Until Yesterday. So I'm not going to go through all 400 pages of that, but just a word about the Lakota language, which is the language that was spoken by people who primarily are on Pine Ridge Reservation now. It's come close to eradication, with less than 2% of the entire North and South Dakota Lakota population being Lakota speakers. Less than 10% of the residents of the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, which is home to the majority of the Lakota tribe, are native speakers, and the average Lakota speaker is now 65 years old. So preserving and revitalizing Lakota language and customs is integral to reversing cultural disintegration and to opening to a future that is rich and strong. And two of the people that I've invited here are working in an amazing way to revitalize the language and the culture. So I'm thrilled to invite them here today. In keeping with Lakota tradition of storytelling, we're going to be doing our presentation in a storytelling format. And Nurit, sorry again to interrupt, but part of the thing I learned last night that sometimes it takes a whole week to tell a story. So I'm very aware that we only have 30 minutes, so we're cramming a lot in. And also in resonance with the overall theme of family at this particular symposium, we're enriching our presentation with multi-generational presence. So I'd like to introduce Lora Ketch, and as you know now, she's the director of the Lakota Studies Department in the Oglala County School District, Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Lora.
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. As Nancy said, I'm the director of the Lakota Studies Department. We serve 5 schools in on our reservation. We're proud members of the Oglala Sioux tribe here in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And traditionally, when we do a presentation like this, we would like to start with a prayer. So I just want to introduce my dad here. He is a first language speaker. Lakota was his first language. So he's gonna offer a prayer for us first before we get started.
Thank you for having me. So Gashla, Wakantaka. Patua Upia Yakpelo. Leptala, Ukahepikela, Upila Tanko Kinichapi. Don't we Okchana, don't want Glakota, he on capo. Minucha Kevela Weste. Between Kuna, Taco Jalala, Taco Chupi Hana Weste. Lakŵótiyapi lewana uni piktacha washte ichumpi. Unshi chala la oichaka. Hecha ta ichumte. The makaj la kalana to uspe ichumkaptes. Ish ilo ta has was peonkapsa. Cha he ta yakopi. To kashla leptala on kai pikala io hanala. Ta kon kika kisha pikena new hasloliacha. Ushula. Okay, unkopia. Now, better kala oyate ke yuha ichaki chwashta to kashla. Helms ever hot chelo. How? Mitake oyase.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's okay. And so Laura, I'd like to go first to you. And can you just tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to the work that you're doing now with Lakota language?
Okay. Yeah, so I started learning Lakota in 2015. I started going to Lakota Language Summer Institute, and it was my desire to learn the language just because it is, you know, we need to keep it alive. And it's my hope and dream that someday that my dad and I can be conversing in only Lakota in our family, as well as in our schools, and just to make Lakota normal. We're trying to normalize Lakota in our school systems. My dad, he went to boarding schools, and, you know, the language and the culture was taken away from our people. So in order to honor that and honor the sacrifices of our ancestors, you know, I feel like it is our responsibility to revitalize our language and our culture. So as the director of Oglala Lakota County School District, that's just what we're doing. We're, as a grassroots people, we're learning the language ourselves. We're learning about our culture ourselves, and we're teaching everything that we learn by practicing it, and then teaching teachers how to teach the culture, teaching teachers the language, and then how to teach the language.
So what was it like for you when you first started studying and learning Lakota?
There wasn't very many resources. There wasn't very many active learners. Now with, it's sort of like a language revitalization movement. So we have more people who are willing to learn. And, you know, whenever I first started, I started at the immersion daycare. It's the first immersion daycare in Oglala, South Dakota. And we started with creating curriculum, just the daily schedule, what the day looks like, and everything that was being said in English. I would write it down in English, and then I would ask a fluent speaker how I would say these things in Lakota. And then that became the curriculum for the daycare. Then I researched everything that was for preschool and daycare level, and then just translated everything into Lakota for the daycare. And then those children got older, and whenever they turned 5, Red Cloud Indian School, which was a boarding school, that my dad also attended that boarding school. So the Red Cloud Indian School housed the 5-year-olds for the very first Lakota language, our Lakota immersion classroom. So we followed those children, and it was just creating curriculum as we went along. We were constantly creating curriculum for the next grade. And, you know, it was all Lakota in the classroom. So we learned right along with the students. Everything we wanted to say in English, we would just write it down, and then on break time or recess time, we'd sit with the speaker and get those things translated, and that kind of became the curriculum as well. Now we're sharing the curriculum with other tribes who are learning the language as well, and, you know, using this language nest as a model.
So I'm really fascinated from just starting with, even as the children grew up, so did the program. And there's so many different components now to the overall curriculum. Can you describe some of those components for us?
Yeah, so what we're doing with the language program in the school is teaching teachers how to teach Lakota. So we have a teacher training program that they're involved in. So it's a class just for the teachers. Then we have just the regular school day class where the students are coming into Lakota class for 30 to 40 minutes a day. And we have an after school program for parents. It's called 4 Years to Fluency. And that's where the community members and the parents of the kids who are in immersion can take the Lakota language class so that they can continue the language at home after the kids come home from school. So we're really, you know, taking every step possible that we can take to normalize Lakota, and so that our people are proud to speak Lakota, because there is a time, and it is a reality, where it was hard for our elders to speak Lakota, because it was, you know, they were shamed for speaking it, and it caused a lot of intergenerational trauma.
So I'm also understanding that the life skills program is part of what you're doing.
Yep. So we also have a life skills for the young Lakota. And this is one of the reasons why this curriculum was created, was because of the intergenerational trauma, and, you know, people not understanding how that affects our children, especially in poverty. So this is the life skills for the young Lakota. Let me see if we could see it. And what this curriculum is that it touches your, there's lessons on your emotional body, your spiritual body, your mental body, and your physical body. And we use this as a tool to go around the medicine wheel 14 times in a year with these lessons. And let me see here. Let me take it off there. Okay, so we use these to go around the medicine wheel 14 times, and we'll have 14 lessons on each one of these bodies, just so that we can be a well-balanced human being. Lakota people at one time were the healthiest people and the most spiritual, you know, use the land, the food as medicine. So we really are trying our hardest to get back to that. And some of the ways that we're doing that, sorry, Nancy, I'm just like on, let me see. I don't know what happened to my thing. It's just showing our screen.
Right, somebody changed the screen.
It would be helpful if it got changed back, please.
Yeah, whoever did that.
Sheena, can you?
Brian,
can you help?
Brian needs to do that. And there we go.
Brian, you are the host.
Laura, are you able to share your screen?
I'm not trying to share my screen.
We want the gallery view again.
You have the gallery view.
Well, I think she's spotlighted, whatever that means.
Yeah, remove the
Okay,
spotlight.
that's better. There it is. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, we, just teaching the kids about yoga, about meditation, tapping, and talking circles, so that you're relating to the classroom and building that community. And the children are healing themselves as we're doing these lessons. This curriculum was designed for all the teachers in the district to teach the culture. And this is our culture piece, and it has 400 ancestor stories that go along with it, because that was our old Lakota way of educating our children, was through storytelling. And like Nancy said, sometimes, it would take a week for the children, for a story to be told, for the lessons to be learned. And, children couldn't wait to hear these stories before bed at night. And so there are 400 ancestor stories along with this curriculum. It's a 7-year curriculum, kindergarten through 8th grade right now. And we're actually working on a high school curriculum that's specific to the teenagers. It'll be called Life Skills for the Young Teen.
Thanks, Laura. I want to hear all those stories, but it's going to have to be another time.
Okay.
I would also like to invite in Otto, who is the Lakota Studies District Coordinator in Pinewood, South Dakota. So Otto, can you say hi?
Hello, I'm Otto.
And
Can you
Otto,
guys hear me?
yeah, one of our first conversations was a bit about your background and your life story. Could you share some of that with us now, please?
Yeah. So my name is Otto. I grew up in a small town called Martin, South Dakota. It's between the Pine Ridge Reservation and the Rosebud Sioux Reservation. It's a small town where there was no culture. Language was not an important thing there. The town consisted of half white and half Native American population. Stories growing up I heard were a lot of racism and a lot of violence in the town. So my father was a Wounded Knee vet, American Indian vet, from 1973. He attended Red Cloud boarding school as well. At Red Cloud, he was beat and verbally abused for practicing our ways and speaking our language. And my mother was she was a school nerd, as they say. She attended school in Arizona. She never really practiced the ways as well. So language and culture weren't a part of my childhood, which I wished it was. So.
And yet here you are now with this amazing work that you're doing. So how did you get from there to here?
Just like Laura, I started at the immersion daycare. I had a vocabulary of 3 words. No idea what was going on most of the time, but as time progressed on, I started studying more and picking up the language quickly. And that's how I started with my local language journey.
Was there anyone in your family or your friends that especially encouraged you?
My grandma was my biggest supporter. She was a fluent speaker as well. Unfortunately, I didn't take the time to learn from her. I didn't think it was important, as important as I see it now. I wish I would have seen it then before she had passed. So my language journey is dedicated to her. It's in honor of her. So my goal is to reach fluency to honor her. So, and to teach other people and our other family members as well.
So you went from 3 words in an immersion daycare to where you are now. What did that journey look like for you?
I spent my weekend studying 2-3 hours a day. Every day I would study 2-3 hours a day. I would listen to recordings for hours throughout the day. Just everything that I could get my hands on, I would that had to do with the language. I would just take the time to do that. So that was my life for 3 years. It's still my life now. But I was really strict on what I was doing. It was like a strict diet I was sticking to, but it was books and recordings. So that's how I got to where I'm pretty proficient now in the language. So 3.5 years studying and learning.
And so from the immersion school, where did you graduate on with the kids, or did you stay in the immersion school? What happened?
So I spent 6 months at the immersion daycare, and a teaching position opened up at Red Cloud School, and where my father was at, and I took the job and I began teaching K through 4 Lakota language there. I did that for 2 years. So it was like a times, like changing times type of thing. Like it went from no language, no culture whatsoever to having it every day, every hour of the day. So it was like a honor to be down there teaching, considering the history it has. So.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking for you personally, like knowing that your father had been abused, basically beaten and abused in that very school. What was it like for you to go back to that same school?
It was a little intimidating at first, because I didn't understand the Catholic ways, but it began to become real beautiful, to like where my dad even stepped into the school one day. My first year teaching, he would not come down at all, and then the second year I was there, he stepped into the school, and he was just excited for what he saw. My niece is in the immersion program as well, and he went into her classroom and was like, man, this is so beautiful. And it was like words I didn't expect to hear him say, he said, and it was like a big relief, because I felt like he had self-healing, to be able to go down there and not hold like that grudge and that trauma from back in the 60s. So it was a beautiful moment. He got to witness a lot of good things in that day. So.
Yeah, so can you just kind of very quickly, in a minute or so, walk us through what a day looks like in terms of what you actually do when you're with the students?
So when the kids come in, we separate them, boy, girl. The kids will come in, they'll sit down in a half a circle, and we'll smudge, and then we'll sing the 4 Direction song, which is like the prayer for the classroom. And then we review the morning circle, we review the alphabet, and then we get into our new lesson, and then we finish our class with the TPR. And that is how each class would look for 30 minutes every hour. So 30 minutes with the boys and 30 minutes with the girls.
And TPR is?
TPR is a total physical response. It's a way for the kids to communicate in sentences with each other, talking in full sentences back and forth, first person, second person, third person forms. So they would be conversing for 15 minutes. So it's a really helpful tool. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, does your usual routine include interactions with teachers or with parents or grandparents too, in your normal day?
Mostly parents and teachers. So.
Are they included in the circles that you do, or what's their?
Oh no, the circle is for the kids. The half circle is for the kids in the classroom. When we would do parent classes, we would kind of set them up like that, and teach that way. So it felt more connected, and it felt more comfortable to teach.
There's a load more questions I want to ask you, Otto, but instead I'm going to invite you to share your very special guest and introduce your guest with us today.
Yep. So this is my guest, Mia. This is my niece, Mia. She is the one who is in the immersion daycare. And Glukínipi. Glukínipi.
Yeah, Lakļótiyapi.
Glukínipi.
Elwati.
Niate daku echiapi.
Ate James Etiapi.
Nihu daku echiapi.
Ina Tanya Etiapi.
And what she said is our introduction. I asked her what her name was. She said her name was Mia. Where does she live? She lives in Pine Ridge. And asked who her mom and dad were. Her dad is James and her mom is Tanya. And now we're going to do a quick TPR for you guys. So
Otto,
Mia,
she just a little closer to your shoulder, just so that we're just seeing the bottom half of her face. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
how's
Yeah.
that? Okay, all right. Okay, so Mia, le daku he.
Revitalization Hacha.
Okay, le naus daku he.
Hanaus Omasa Pala Hacha.
Okay, na le na daku he.
Hana Mazka Hacha.
Watch there. And what I asked her was like an everyday question. What is this? And she said, that is a pencil. What are these two things? Those two things are phones. And then what are these? Those are dollar bills. So that's kind of like a small TPR, what we would do every day, but we would expand it more to other things.
So we didn't plan this, but I'm just curious if there's anything Mia would like to add, anything she would like to tell before closing, if there's anything else she wants to tell us or explain to us.
You'd like to tell? Nothing? So she doesn't have nothing. She's kind of shy sometimes.
Well, you did a
She read, so I'm proud of her because she read Lakota first before she read English. So I think like to our family, that's a big honor. So
Yeah.
so she's fluent in hearing it and she can read it very fluently.
So then I think Mia's going to close us out. So Otto, could you explain how she's going to do that for us?
Yeah, so Mia is going to say thank you to all of you, and she's going to tell you she'll see you guys all again later. So, why not? Louder, louder.
Hilamayaya Pina Dokta Akewachiyanka.
She said thank you, and she'll see you all again later.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you very, very, very much. Wow, I'm really exciting. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mia. It was wonderful. How old are you?
I'm 8.
She's 8.
8.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is 8 in Lakota?
Thank you very, very much.
The 8 in Lakota.
Shaglocha.
Shaglocha. Kind of a
Thank you.
tough word, Shaglocha.
Okay, so now we have time for question and discussion and comments, and I can see that Brian want to ask something. Please, Brian.
I just want to compliment Mia. Mia, you are our youngest Oxford Symposium presenter, and you did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
rocked it.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Mia. Thank you, all of you. Questions? I have one question. How do you revitalization your language? I mean, you show the phone, and did you have the phone word in the Lakota language? Because it's something new. We have the problem in Hebrew. Hebrew is a very old language, and we don't have all the words, so we have to, I mean, what do you do when you don't have the right word for technology or whatever?
So what they usually do is they get like a group of fluent speakers together and they all discuss like what's the best possible way we could create a word for this typical thing. So that's how they got phone, a thing that rings pretty much, a device that rings. Lora probably knows more about how that would work if she has anything.
Yeah, so Lakota is a very descriptive language. So we're describing things, how they feel, how they smell, how they look. So yeah, during the summer institutes, the Lakota summer institutes, there are a group of Lakota speakers that come together and agree on a word, and then those are shared within the communities.
And you have a dictionary.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a dictionary for a book dictionary. We have a dictionary for our phones and a dictionary for our computers. So they're all very handy.
This is the Lakota dictionary.
Mm,
I don't know if you could see it or not.
yeah. That's good.
Reed, there's a question from Sudha.
Yeah, please.
Hi,
And you will ask something?
question or comment? Ready?
So yeah, please, yes.
Okay. What I was going to say is I think that what you're doing is amazing and that you're not alone in the world. There are other places where people are trying to reclaim their language. A lot of it based on in areas that have been colonized in some way by another population and lost or forced to use the colonizer's language. At the present time, I'm working with indigenous communities in a state in Mexico, a southern state called Oaxaca, and there's 16 indigenous languages, and there are people working in many of them and trying to infuse them into schooling with resistance from the national government. And I'm also wondering, have you gotten any kind of support from our national education system for doing what you're doing? And also I know that in New Zealand, there was, because it was mentioned, somebody said something about nests, and they had projects that were called language nests, where children, early childhood would be with speakers of the language, usually grandparents or older people, to begin, to learn that native first language as their first language. So I wonder if you're aware of what was going on in New Zealand and that this movement is happening in many different countries. And thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that. The state of South Dakota has made a commitment to incorporate Native American culture and language into everyday lessons in our schools. And so it's a good time that we're able to incorporate, the life skills for the young Lakota and our language. So we are taking full advantage of that and creating not only these programs, but also for our parents, because there's a gap there after the boarding schools. The parenting was lost, the traditional parenting, the language and the life skills. So those are things that, those things are being remembered. We're trying to do our part in helping our people remember these practices.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Anne, please, and then Gertina and Jackie. So Anne, please, you want to say
Yes,
something?
thank you so much for a very, very interesting presentation. I think that what you are doing about building up a community, celebrating a history that could and culture that could otherwise be lost. I was just wondering, now we appear to have several generations of you here. So is there something about which generations are about to decide the important skills and the important values in the culture? Is it, are children like Mia and youngsters, are they involved in that? Or is it mostly the older generations passing on knowledge and culture to the younger ones? What is it like? And how do you decide about what to do?
Oh,
Well, I think like the younger generation, like Mia's age plays a big role in it. I'm 32 and I feel like I'm a big asset to it, but they are they like we always hear like children are like the future. So I feel like we stress it and push it on them in a good manner, then they're the ones who will bring that back. I had a lady message me yesterday, and she was like, you know, I feel like one day soon that Lakota will be normal, and I feel like it will be these guys, me and the other crew, like at Red Cloud, and other schools are real involved, and they're really pushing the language now. So I feel like they play a big role in it. So.
Thank you. It's not only the language, it's more than that. It's the culture and the relationship and the generation relationship. Yeah, thank you. It's a great for us. Gertina, you want to ask something?
I just want to make a very short comment. I am in South Africa, and when we transitioned from the apartheid regime to democracy, we chose to have 11 official languages, and we're still working on the 12th one, which is Braille. And even our anthem, our national anthem, is quite unique in the world because it comprises 5 indigenous languages. So congratulations for your work. I hope to hear more from it in future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gertina. And Jackie, you want to ask something?
Just a
Jackie
small,
Shainfeld?
thank you. Just a small comment. Time I know is precious, but Lora, Otto, Maya, I think you are the epitome of what we can look at school-based family therapy, counseling as introducing all parts of our system of a human being, and that is the cultural piece to continue within and integrate it in all the work that we do in the classroom or in our counseling seat or in our politics of what we do in our government. So thank you so much. Appreciate, it's heartwarming to know that there are such strong, resilient people ready to generalize this to the regular population of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. I think this would be a good time to share that this is the Life Skills Parent Handbook that we are getting ready to implement into the schools and the communities to have a parent class for our communities, because they say, you know, parenting is the hardest job and there's no education for it. So that's what we're going to start implementing at the beginning of this school year.
And just while we're thanking, I
Thank
would
you,
also
Laura.
like to thank Joe very much, Laura's father, who disappeared during part of the thing, but is back with us now. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, all of you. And I would like to ask Karen if she can summarize. I'm sure I don't
Sure.
see.
Yes. Well, thank you to Lora, Joe, Otto, Mia, and Nancy for you welcomed us into your story of revitalizing the Lakota language and culture. What an amazing presentation you all shared with us today. Thank you so much for that. A couple of things that really struck me. I was the early childhood educator in me was so struck with your immersion preschool daycare and how powerful it is to start with young children. And thank you for sharing that with us. Otto, your story of learning the language, being influenced by your grandmother, and now teaching, how powerful that is. Mia, amazing. You're 8 years old and you can read Lakota and English. Incredible. And Lora, I have to say, I am just blown away by your leadership with teachers and children. The curriculum building that you're doing is absolutely amazing. Training teachers and just knowing how vitally important families are, and building curriculum to help connect families and education. Wow, so powerful. Thank you so much to each one of you. And we look forward to just hearing more from you in the future.
you.
And good luck to you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you all. We have now, according to my watch, we have about 7 minutes break and time to take a drink or something. And then we will meet again at 11:25 with Dr. Kezia